Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your warm applause. I always love getting good applauses. But I'd like to ask you a quick question, if you don't mind. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to applaud? That's something that I will never know. I'll never know what it feels like to applaud. To put your hands together and make that beautiful noise. What does it feel like to embrace somebody? To take your arms and put them around somebody that you love? What does that feel like? That's something else I'll never know. But I don't really dwell too much of my life on the things that I don't do like you do with your arms and your hands. Because I've learned that in life it's mostly about learning who you are and what your purpose in life is. We all have a purpose in life. There's a reason why we're here. It wasn't an accident that we happened to land on this planet or to be born in the family that you're born in. It's all a part of a bigger picture, a purpose in life. And I believe that I came to this world in this body with a purpose. One of those is to be with you here tonight. Because probably if I hadn't been born in this body, I wouldn't be here. It all started when I was coming out of the womb of my mother, that the doctors took one look at me, and the first thing that came to their mind was, he's dead. Well, they thought I was dead just because they didn't see all the package that was supposed to come along with, like it normally does. But they figured out that I wasn't dead, and when I turned around and looked at them, and I said, no, wait a minute. Think again, I'm here, okay? I'm not going nowhere. No, it wasn't quite in those words. It was more like, the universal language that we all speak when we're born. Yeah, it's a universal language because I've been to many countries and I've seen many babies and they all, Have you ever seen two babies when they get together and they're talking to each other? Have you noticed how they look like they can understand each other? At least that's the impression that I've gotten, is that they're just and I call it the universal language that I think we should all go back to speaking. Because we used to be able to understand each other. And now it looks like we grow up and learn a different language and we don't understand each other anymore. But anyway, it's something that's always in the back of my mind that I think we should go back to that language and be able to understand everything in life, such as why I was born like this. But anyway, the doctors realized I wasn't dead, so they took me and they put me in my mother's arms. And my mother just kind of looked at me and she smiled and she hugged me. She hugged me real tight. And all she could say, from being tired after the birth experience and carrying me in her womb for 9 months, she just looked at me and said, "Let it be God's will." That's all she said. And then she fell asleep and the doctors came back and took me away from her arms and put me in another room, took me back to the lab, put me under a microscope to see what I was made of, see what happened. I was born on July 13, 1966. For those of you doing the math, that makes me 57 today. I know nobody does math in their heads anymore, right? Everybody pulls out the cell phone. Okay, where's the calculator? Don't do that. Especially if you're watching this video, many years from now, do the math in your head. Don't pull out the calculator. But anyway, I was born in the 60s, and I was also born in Mexico City, which is a country that back in those days, they didn't really have much expectations from children that were born with handicaps. Back in those days in Mexico, they used to take kids with handicaps and they would hide them. They would send them off to, grandma and grandpa's farm somewhere or some kind of institution. Or they would even sometimes just throw them in the closet and lock the door and come back 20 years later and see if they changed, see if maybe they got cured, like it was some kind of disease. I haven't walked up to anybody and their arms fall off yet, but some people treat a handicap like it's a disease or something. And it's not. It's just a different way of living. It creates a different lifestyle, which is what I've had to learn to live in my life. And so my parents, they raised me pretty much with the idea that, well, I do have a brain, or it looks like he has a brain, so let's try to get him ahead in life and do everything possible, which they did. They sacrificed a lot, and they worked real hard so that I could try to have a life as normal, if that's what you want to call it, as possible. When I was turning about 5 years old, they started looking for a school to be able to enroll me in so I could get into the educational system. But unfortunately, again, like I said, back in Mexico in those days, they didn't take handicapped kids in schools. But my dad didn't give a reason for my parents to give up on the idea. They knocked on a lot of doors, and they always met up with the idea that, I'm sorry, but we're full right now. Can you come back in about a year? Or they say, can you come back in about 5 years? There was even one teacher that turned around and asked my mom, said, excuse me, ma'am, but how do you really expect him to learn if he doesn't have any hands? My mom just kind of looked at it and said, does that mean your brain is in your hands? Because that's what it sounds like. So I wasn't really able to have the opportunity to go to school, at least not in Mexico. My parents kept looking and looking, and eventually they did find a school, but it was here in the United States, where I was able to come and be a part of a school, which was a real school. It wasn't just a daycare. It was just a real school where I got all my formal education. And then I went from first grade through 8th grade, and then after the 8th grade, they moved me on to public high school, where I graduated in the top 10 of my class in high school. And then from there, I moved on to college. I went to live in the dorms in college and studied computer science, where I finished the degree in computer science engineering. Not bad for somebody who wasn't supposed to be able to learn because he didn't have hands, right? And then after that, I moved on, and after I finished college, my dad sat me down and had a serious talk with me. He said, son, it's time for you to pay your own rent. I think we forked out enough on you now. It's time for you to buy your own Coca-Colas and buy your own, sandwiches and pay your own gas and buy your own car and your own clothes and buy your insurance and basically pay for your own life. So I had to get out and start looking for what they call a job. Anybody here ever looked for a job before? Well, it was my turn to go out and look for a job, and I did. I knocked on many doors, but unfortunately, I got the same response as my mom did when she tried to find a school for me. They would open the doors and took one look at me, and they're like, no, sorry, but we already filled the position. We already filled the position. So in the meantime, I learned the art of selling. And I say the art of selling because selling is an art. Although some people look at it as a job, I learned that it's not just a job. It's an experience that you've got to master like an art. And once you get it down pat, it's real easy. And you can pretty much sell anything, which I did. I sold everything. I sold everything from cosmetics to all kinds of medications, not medications, vitamins, and even pantyhose, and I don't even wear pantyhose. And I was good. I was good at selling, but I knew that there was more to life than just doing that because I wanted to be a computer science engineer. That's why I studied it. I love computers. I was amazed with the first time I ever touched a computer that I could make the computer do whatever it is that I wanted it to, which I haven't found anybody like that anymore. But in life, that's what I was wanting to do, is work with computers. So one day I woke up and I decided that if nobody was going to give me the chance to be an employee, then I just have to start my own business. And that's what I did. I opened up my own computer company, and it was pretty successful. It was pretty successful because in the first 3 years, we were already doing over $2.5 million a year. And that was just me and a partner that I had, or somebody I had to hire to help me because I couldn't carry all the load by myself. And then from there we grew, and eventually I had up to about 17, 18 employees. And from that company, I started 3 other different companies: an import-export company, a marketing company, and then the last one was an internet company. And from there, I just kept on going and going and going and going. And so one day I realized that there was more to life than just making money, which is when I started getting the opportunity to, well, I was invited at one point to a local church to speak on my life. I met a pastor at a car wash one day, and he was amazed that I was driving my own car, which, by the way, I do drive my own car. And I've also flown a plane, and I've also done skydiving and scuba diving, and everything that, is fun. I've tried it at least once. I always say try it at least once. If you like it, do it again. If you don't like it, don't do it again. But I had fun doing that, and I met this pastor, and he invited me over to his church to talk about, my life and what I've accomplished. And from there on, I started getting invitations to go to other local schools and to go to some other churches, and then to go to some civic organizations. And then before I knew it, I was going to other states and other countries. And slowly but surely, I started letting all the businesses that I had and that I was running to start doing what I do now that I love the most, and that's standing in front of people and telling them about my life and how I've been able to accomplish many things in this body. And why can't you? Why can't you do it? What's your excuse? I love going to schools and talking to kids about, hey, look, you've got yourself a good body, two good hands, right? How many of you here have hands? Everybody here have hands? Raise them real high. Raise your hands. Let's see who didn't use deodorant today. Okay, everybody, cool. Well, you got two good hands. What's your excuse for not being able to make life and to make the most of it? That's what I like to ask people is, what's keeping you from being able to think outside of your environment, think outside of your area, and be successful and do something. Make a difference in life. Make this world a better place. Think again about what it is that you're doing and what you're capable of, and know that you can do something bigger and better. After all, isn't that what we're here for? To live life and to enjoy it. I'd like to ask you for one quick favor, if you don't mind. You want to do me a favor? Yes. Yes or yes? Cool, thank you. Let go of whatever you got in your hands. Let go of whatever you got. If you're holding something in your hands, a cell phone, a drink, a baby. No, don't let the baby go. Let go of whatever you got in your hands for a second. Close your eyes. Close your eyes for a minute. And I want you to take your right hand and put it on your left shoulder. And I'd like for you to take your left hand and put it on your right shoulder. I'd like to ask you, as a quick favor, if you'd let me borrow your hands and your arms. Let me borrow them as if they were mine. Let me borrow them so that I can hug you. So that I can give you one warm, big hug. Squeeze tight, like my mother did the day I was born. Squeeze tight. And know that this is a hug that's coming from the bottom of my heart. Know that this is a hug that I'd like to share with you, that you can give yourself this hug anytime in your life, anytime you ever feel lonely, or anytime you feel like you're sad, like you have nowhere to turn, or like if you have no one that wants to listen to you. Give yourself this hug and remember this moment that we shared together today, when I came here to tell you that I love you, that life is good, and that everything is going to be okay. This is a hug from the bottom of my heart to you, so that I can come to you in a way that only your mind can understand. That you can think again about the possibilities and know and remember that if I can, you can. Thank you for your time.